For us, also important is that with the cloud, we can build one data center for the group. Again, for those countries that are allowed to go to the cloud. And it enables to give us a lot of benefits in efficiency, support model. We can do a multi-company setup on T24. So it gives a lot of benefits for us to basically build one new data center for us internationally. And finally, and it's related I think, to the hardware challenge I mentioned, is that the speed of delivery in Azure Average Choice for Azure Cloud is really, I mean, if you have to build on site, I already mentioned, it's really challenging. But with the Azure Cloud, the speed of delivery environments is really great. So it enables us to achieve, I would say, an ambitious rollout schedule for our platform across the 13 locations that we have.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've all heard about the prospects, the good things of cloud, scalability, quicker go-to-market, resiliency, so forth. And now I think we can hear it directly from one of the people who've actually experienced it. So thank you very much.
First experience are very good from that perspective.
And we hope that the experience continues to be good. So thank you, Steve, for that. Humayun, coming back to you now. How can distributed cloud applications such as edge computing, IoT, and so on and so forth, how can these be fully leveraged? We talked about basic points of cloud and how, for example, Steve shared experience or how beneficial it was for his organization. Now, what about edge cloud computing and those kind of things? How can these be leveraged?
That's a tough one. Let me actually start by sharing a personal story. I remember 2016 we developed an Android application for our frontline sales staff. And we thought, since these are 2,500, 3,000 people, why publish this Android application on Play Store? We should be able to host the so-called APK on our internal web portal, and then start publishing that, pushing that to our frontline staff Android devices. So we came up with that strategy, and then it was very nice launch. Everybody clapped. 3,000 people, sales, frontline staff were very happy. And then came a time for an update, few weeks down the road. And we said, okay, by the way, you just have to press the update button. And so 3,000 people decided to update at the same time. Our network, our database literally choked. And we unfortunately had no vendor to blame but ourselves, saying that the architecture was not capable of handling such level of concurrent sessions. And that's when we even if it was for 3,000 people, we had to publish it on Play Store. It is such a small example of how the size, scale, and performance, just these three things requires cloud underneath. And I keep telling everybody on such forums that I keep telling myself every day, calm down. It's a long road. But what I'm trying to say, for IoT, just imagine the number of devices today are speaking to its server. I was just reading a small note that 3.6 billion people used at least one cloud service in 2022. 3.6 billion people. If they use one service in a year, and if they use it multiple times, just imagine the size of, the mammoth size of scale you need to service such kind of devices in the future. And similarly for machine learning, you can't have a data center on your premises to run a machine learning algorithm and believe that this will be able to help sustain the load that your customers will put on your infrastructure. And to be be honest, just building a machine learning algorithm is not rocket science anymore. It is about creating a customer usable service by making use of existing machine learning algorithms which are available as a service on cloud, which is more important. So, to be honest, I don't see any other pathway ahead than to adopt cloud. And all of these concepts, IoT, AI, and edge computing, rely on cloud as a fundamental technology.
I think great insights. So you touch both sides of the spectrum, from a small scale, real life example, having just 3,000 people to half the world's population, touching on cloud service one from the other. So great insights. Thank you very much for that. Steve, you've started the cloud journey. You've already started seeing benefits of that, as you mentioned. Now, what do you think would be the next steps in that journey? What is it that you're envisioning now? Could you just make a little closer?
So from my perspective, I think that, like you said, I mentioned before, we have started the cloud journey. We're just setting it up for the Ghana entity of Plaza International. It's a learning still what we are doing. Like Elias, I think we really see the benefits of the quickness of setting up environments and things like that already. But we also have to explore where we're going with that. So for us, it's really key that we set up one, as I mentioned before, one hub, or at least the African countries, and ideally for all the locations that are allowed to go to the cloud. And we need to think about how that's going to serve performance and a latency perspective. So we are looking into technologies like front door, Azure Edge, and to see what that will bring to us. We also will have everything onto one environment, so that will also mean, in line with what was said earlier, can we use that data? Can we put certain, I won't say automatically AI, but at least some logic on there, that we have a much easier way to get data out of it and to do analysis on it, but also to manage our business with it from a day-to-day operation perspective. So that's something we're looking at. From a security risk perspective, which was just mentioned as well, we need to see how we link it to the SOC setup that we're working on. So we really need to make sure that we have that covered from that perspective. So there's a lot of sort of technical things which we need to look at, tooling which we want to add to it. But I think the crux is that we are able to build a platform which we can use for the locations that are allowed in the cloud. And I think that from that perspective, that's really what I'm focusing on, making sure that the benefits that we already see from the cloud are really continuing, that we can grow our business in an efficient way, a cost-effective way, that we build a single support entity for the whole hub, so that we really have a platform that we can roll out quickly, that's cost-efficient for us, and that we can obviously use additional features and functionalities on.
Great. So we're all looking up to you. Good luck with that.
It would be nice to stay ahead of the curve, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve, for sharing those insights. So Sohail Saab, I think we've come a full circle. We started with you talking about the current state of cloud adoption in Pakistan. We had some great insights around security, some great live examples as well, and insights from where we've already started on the cloud journey. Now, coming back to full circle, as I say, what do you think in the next 5 years, or how do you envision the next 5 years, again from a local perspective, from a Pakistan cloud technology adoption perspective in Pakistan, how do the next 5 years look like?
I think the groundwork has been done in the past couple of years, and from regulatory standpoint, quite clear that we are all set for non-critical or maybe the customer, other workload which doesn't contain customer data, so we can that's the starting point. The workload like HR, like customer relationship management and all those. So we started from there, and there is a learning curve in managing. As I mentioned earlier, security, data privacy, how to deal with hybrid setup of cloud implementation and then translate it to a multi-cloud implementation, and manage the SLAs around the legal side of it, security side of it, the exit strategy which has to be there. So making the whole ecosystem ready for the cloud standpoint of view. So this is a journey, this is an evolution, which to my view is going to take time. To start is with from the non-critical, maybe when I say non-critical, so that means from customer data standpoint. So that's the starting point, and then going through this evolution, which I think my view is, I think something more than 5 years journey. That's what we're looking at, but at the same time, skill set is also one of the area where the enterprise architecture and how to deal with translating the conventional structure to proper microservices-based architecture, and then forklifting it to maybe to the cloud architecture, bringing it there, and then because we have a legacy with the big banks already there, so I think the advantage is the greenfield implementations like digital banks coming up. So we expect them to set the direction for the big banks because they have an advantage of being a greenfield starting point. So that's how I look at this journey.
Great insights, and I think I 100% agree with you. The digital banks, they don't have that baggage, they don't have that legacy, so it is easier for them to adopt that. And of course, all the other aspects, hybrid cloud, it can ultimately be multi-cloud, and I think that will be for everyone. I don't think one single cloud platform. Humayun, please.
I want to share something which is very close to my heart, and I think this will benefit the larger banking fraternity that we have here. So there are three options that we typically explore when it comes to cloud. Either we build the technology in our own data center from a computing standpoint, use a local cloud service provider, or move to the big guys like Amazon, Microsoft. When I moved to National Bank, I realized that our digital banking platform was on Microsoft Azure. And as much as I was delighted, I also realized that it was a state bank inspection that you have to move it to in-country. And back then we didn't have the cloud regulation. This was 2021. And we made a lot of effort in architecting how can we bring all of those services that have been running for almost 5 years in cloud outside the country. And then we set up the entire cloud infrastructure in Pakistan. Given the legacy that National Bank has, particularly around technology, we sort of decoupled it in such a way that the digital banking manages everything on its own, and the core banking only does credit and debit. So the link to our data center, which is our own data center at National Bank, is just one debit or credit. That's it. The rest of the services are completely managed in a local cloud. And we don't deal with a local cloud service provider. It is a software as a service by the vendor that manages our digital banking platform. So phenomenal example. And then came the state bank regulation, and then we sort of validated how well we were able to establish from a security and data and risk and a lot of other control and procedural point of view. So I take great pride that at National Bank we were able to exercise the thing that we've been talking here, and that is an example that the rest of the industry can leverage, nuggets to see how they can then transition into. So there are locally very good skills available and the facilities available to support the banking industry.
Mayur, that's really heartening, and congratulations to you and your team, and kudos for doing that. I think that's some real great examples that we heard of. I've been given the cue that we're out of time. So as much as I would love to continue this discussion, I hope it's been informative for all of you as it's been for me. Gentlemen, thank you very much again for your insights. And again, thank you for being here. Thank you.
Kindly remain on stage so we can thank each and every one of you with a token of appreciation.
I would like to invite Mr. Mara Masood, accompanied with Mr. Elias, to give away the plaques of appreciation. A big round of applause on behalf of the audience. That was truly, that covered all the three eyes, intriguing, insightful and informative of a panel discussion. Once again, a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, the BaaS and embedded finance market is expected to reach 3.6 trillion by 2030, and an increasingly popular use case that you're all familiar with is buy now, pay later.
Banking is becoming bite-sized, and banks must harness emerging technologies to participate in the digital ecosystems to remain at center stage of the banking universe.
Temenos' role in supporting the entire BaaS lifecycle, from customer onboarding and origination to comprehensive data analytics, is so that the business can deliver financial services to the customer directly at the point of need.
Temenos has powered real-world customer success in this area and is making further strategic investments. To elaborate on this topic, please help me welcome on stage Strategic Sales Director Temenos, Mr. Niall Meany.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Very happy to be here in Karachi. I attend a lot of similar forums, and I usually try and run a sweepstake as to how fast the word BaaS or banking as a service will be mentioned at the forum. I think Asif took it at 3 minutes today. And so I'm going to change the sweepstake to how often it gets mentioned in a forum, and I think we're well into the hundreds at this point of the day. So you've heard a lot about banking as a service, and I think it speaks to how intrinsically linked. Sorry, my clicker doesn't seem to be. Can you go to the slides, please? I'm going to show you some figures, and I think it speaks to how intrinsically linked ourselves and systems are at this point, because Amara's talked about a couple of these figures, but I'm going to focus on particularly the drivers. On the right-hand side, what are the drivers for the bank of the future in terms of the opportunity around embedded finance? So for banks in the room, there's a huge opportunity for embedded finance. Thank you. Embedded finance is rising. We're seeing a huge maturing in open banking across the planet. Amara talked about it even here in Pakistan, that it's going to become an imminent, definite position. Huge demand has been driven in new fintechs, neobanks, digital bank licenses are being given out, but this is all being driven by the customer. So customer demand, the new demographics, customers are demanding banking in a different way. They're no longer patient enough to come to the bank first and ask for a loan, ask for finance before they go and think about a purchase. They are demanding finance at the point of purchase, at the point of sale. And this is the drivers for why we see an enormous opportunity in embedded finance and banking as a service for US banks. And we know every bank here, the acceleration in digital transformation that's happening, and the one on the bottom right and the middle, declining profitability. It's a reality for some banks. For some banks it's not, but it's a reality for some banks. And in the middle, the eroding trust advantage of incumbents. So banking has been a very traditional industry for the last 50 years. That trust that incumbents have had for many, many years is eroding. And new digital players, new brands are resonating more with different demographics. And this is why it is a threat when we talk about banking as a service or embedded finance for banks, but an enormous opportunity. Next slide, please. Shiraz mentioned this earlier. I'll just pick one of these, but these are examples from all over the world. But the one on the top right, Apple, and I think everybody here will have read this story or heard this story, that Apple released a new card with high yield deposits. And in the first 4 months of Apple releasing this product, they attracted deposits over $10 billion. 10 billion. This is how huge this opportunity is for banks when you connect with brands that are really, really connected to customers. Apple has a huge affinity. You'll have seen crazy videos of people trying to get an iPhone 15 2 weeks ago in Dubai. It's got huge affinity with customers. Banks can leverage the affinity that brands have with their customers and do the back-end manufacturing, as we know, and let the brand do the distribution. That's exactly what happened in the Goldman Sachs Apple case. Please go. So this is not just retail. Okay, retail is one of the places where it's most common. We've heard BNPL. We've heard BNPL for a long time, actually. It's been a few years now, and Temenos has been in the BNPL space for a few years now. But we're seeing this go beyond retail. And even giving you another example, within retail is airlines, for example. We've got a case in Qantas and Westpac. But as we go into the other areas, particularly SME and corporate, they're starting to expand and think about embedded finance. So these are areas that seem to be a bit untouchable for. Wealth management. Wealth management was such a sort of emotive and difficult topic for people to broach that you couldn't possibly do that digitally or away from a bank. It's starting to happen. We have cases that it's already happening. We're seeing this also go beyond traditional sort of business and enterprise, and even into places like farming. This is something I think in Pakistan that it's going to, if not already happening, is going to happen. We're seeing buy now, pay at harvest, for example. So there's so many things that are happening in this space, and it's beyond just retail. I talked about open banking a little bit, and Mara gave a very good explanation that BAS is not open banking. The open banking has sort of led to what's happening in BAS. This is just a snapshot of what's happening globally. All over the world, we're seeing the regulators start to almost enforce open banking in certain cases, and banks need to be ready to capitalize on this. I know there's some conversations about State Bank, and State Bank in some ways has been very progressive, in other ways it needs to catch up. But this is very imminent, and banks need to be extremely ready for when that moment happens, and it's going to be open. So I'm going to break this down a little bit, and we've heard this from William this morning. Amara touched on it. Shiraz and Christos both gave presentations which kind of showed you behind the scenes of how this is actually. I know Urdu moves from right to left, so I thought it'd be easier if I made it this way. But this is the license holder. This is you as a bank. Okay? We've talked about BAS providers in the middle, but I'm going to focus on the two ends of the spectrum. So on the right is the bank. The regulated entity, State Bank, is giving you a license for being a regulated bank and operating in Pakistan. The brands that are operating, fintechs, retail companies, any sort of brand that you recognize and people have affinity with and recognize. This is what I'm going to focus on the next slide. So, I don't know if you can see it at the bottom. We're going to focus really on what's in it for you. So, the regulated entity on the right, bank. we get access to an even bigger audience that can consume our products. Okay, so we have an audience that maybe, especially for the mature older banks, you may feel like it's slightly saturated. You're able to get out into new markets, new audiences, without having to do the distribution yourself. You manufacture the products, the brand is going to do the distribution. Okay? The platform provider in the middle is combining those products. So they have the platform to develop the financial product, lending, deposit, whatever it may be. Then you have the commercial platform. So this is the retailer. In this example, we have Shopify. Okay? SMEs want to work with us because they can offer integrated financial services. They can enable customers to buy through Shopify. The merchant then is consuming and embedding this, so they can run their business better. They have predictability. We're talking about the analytics, the data behind the scenes. And last, but most importantly, is the client. Okay? The easy payments and instant access to finance in Shopify is great. It's common for the customer. So the customer wants to be able to do it simply, frictionless, fast. They need to be able to buy and all these things. And this comes back. The bank makes money, Shopify makes money, and customer is happy. And this is the key to banking as a service and embedded finance and what's in it for you. So there's three layers to this, okay? And what I want to cover now is as a bank, what you need to be prepared for and what you need to have available in order to capitalize on these opportunities. On the bottom are capabilities that we think what a bank needs to be able to have as a license holder. In the middle is your platform. Okay? Your platform provider, your BaaS provider, who can help you actually with these financial products. And the last bit is the brand and the consumer, in terms of the types of things, the journeys that they're going to go. Shiraz talked a lot about the customer journey, the centricity and the loyalty aspects. Okay? And it's very, very important that you're able to have a system that is modular, can expand into different country models, and I heard Stephen from NASA talk about the multi-company entity, or element, and I'm going to come to that in a subsequent slide. It's very, very important that you have a system that can run all your transactions on Rails, expose these capabilities, and be able to deliver financial products. Then the customer is expecting, and this has been discussed today, see when I can afford a holiday, help me build a savings pot, pay bills when I get paid, auto switch utilities, okay, plan for buying a home. These are emotive and the type of personalization and customer experience that customers are expecting. As a bank, you need to be able to have a platform that can provide for this at the right time, at the time when it's needed. Okay? What does this look like? So the journey is not a linear journey that starts and stops. It's a continuous journey. The digital onboarding, and Shiraz gave a really good demo on how that digital onboarding, how simple it needs to be, how seamless it needs to be, frictionless it needs to be. Then the product origination, you'll have seen that from Christos in terms of how you can pull products together, and not only your own products. Again, leveraging this concept of banking as a service and embedded finance, that you can bring in products from other players, fintechs, other retail, everything. Okay? This is all underpinned by data and analytics. It's really, really important that the huge amount of data that you're sitting on, that you're able to leverage it and use it to your advantage. Then we go into the actual servicing mode, being able to give the right service at the right time to the right customer. And all the things we've been talking about, hyper-personalization and making those things available at the right time is so key. We talked about financial crime, and we've talked about my colleagues talking about fraud, everything. As we go through this, there's a continuous evaluation of that life cycle to drive continued engagement. So these are now engagement platforms. And again, as a bank, you may not have those engagement platforms, and you may decide, I don't have time to build it. I can go to other players. So when we talk about banking as a service, it's not just, let me say, retail and so forth. There's also a lot of operational pieces you can pull in, such as CRMs and lifecycle and loyalty and all these things you can bring in. And this is a virtuous circle that just continues and continues. And this is the type of platform that as a bank you must be able to aspire to. Banks in the future will have platforms of this agility. There's 7 key aspects that I want to bring out, and the platform that you're running must really have these attributes in order to become a bank of the future and be able to capitalize on the opportunity in banking as a service. The first one is openness and interoperability. The key to this is being open. And William talked about this in his opening remarks. Banks have been traditionally closed. We didn't want anyone to attack the former banker, by the way. We didn't want anyone in. We didn't want to share data. We didn't want to share with competitors. We didn't want to share any of this. And the difference now is we must be open. In order to capitalize on this and defend from threats, you must be open. You must be able to expose APIs and be open. Modularity. So again, and Christos talked about this with, you mentioned the Lego blocks, being able to build and compose the services that you need and bringing modularity into this is very important. It must be fast. No code, low code. We don't have time, and it must be agile. We don't have time to build a bunch of code and be stuck with it. We have to be able to be agile, and business needs to be able to make changes. It's not that the business is waiting for an IT project to make these changes. These changes need to be made very, very quickly. Hyperscalability. This is really, really important, and I'll talk more about this. Being able to scale en masse is so important. And I was talking to some colleagues from Mizan, from JS. The ability to scale quickly is so important. The digital banks are getting licenses. There is a huge population that's still yet to be addressed in this bank, and this is going to change very, very quickly. And being able to scale and cater for this is really important. The security aspects are non-negotiable. Data aggregation and data quality, this is also non-negotiable. You cannot offer hyper-personalization. You cannot serve the right customer at the right time with the right product unless your data is clean enough and quality enough to do that. And then agility and time to market is so key. Being able to do it quickly and at the right time is an unbelievably important currency at the moment. I come back to the ASA example around multi-company and multi-entity. This is also a very important aspect. There's many different ways to do banking as a service, as I mentioned. But what we're looking at, and First State Bank is my sample bank, by the way. It's nothing to do with State Bank. So, I should change my example for Pakistan. But in a single instance, and this is a real-life customer, by the way, we have a customer running multiple different brands. So it's not just one brand like Goldman and Apple Card. It's bank with multiple different brands. Brand 1, 2, 3, FinTech 1, and they're able to run this in a multi-company way with the single platform that Christos talked about. Okay? And the really key thing with this is, and a lot of what's happening, particularly in banking as a service, and you'll probably be told this as a CIO, the board will tell you fail fast. So if any of these brands, something's not working out, the business model's not working out, you can also bring them back as quickly as you brought them up. And that's what's important. It's having the agility to be able to run in a single platform with multiple brands, because you can reach different demographics, different markets, different campaigns in all those ways. And this is all about being as agile and cost-effective as possible. Another example I'm going to talk about in terms of where the cloud comes in, and the panel that we just had on stage really touched upon some of these critical points in terms of the security aspects, but also the scale and the performance. So being able to have a highly performant system while trying to deliver all of these aspects we're talking about is so key. Temenos has done a couple of exercises over the last couple of years, but this one is the most real one we've done, if I can say that. Sometimes these exercises can feel a little bit like a scientific exam, but we have really pushed this to the limit in terms of how our cloud is able to perform with a huge mix of transactions, 100 million customers, 100 million accounts, 200 million embedded finance loans, and we're able to achieve 150,000 TTS. For technical people in the room, you'll understand this more. But the key to this is about being faster and being as agile as possible, so that when you scale, this particular exercise was done with what's known as Black Friday in the US. Straight after Thanksgiving, you've got huge sales. You expect this in retail, in holidays, in holiday times. At different times, there's huge sales, there's huge offers, and you get a huge spike. You get a huge spike of activity in terms of a finance product or whatever it is. We have our largest customer in Temos, who on Black Friday last year generated over 175,000 loans in one day. What's more, for the tech in the room, they generated 370 million API calls. Is what's happening. It's astronomical, and you can't do this. Frankly, you can't do it on premise. You have to do it in the cloud. You have to be able to scale and keep performance as high as this as you go forward. So, what we've done is we've put together as Temenos is our cloud offering, our software as a service offering to cater exactly for this. And it's based upon 5 key banking performance drivers. So one is innovation and growth. You need to continuously innovate and you need to grow. Customer centricity, which has been talked about throughout the day and is so key. Advanced analytics. You can only achieve that level of centricity and that level of hyper-personalization with strong advanced analytics. Of course, risk and compliance is just, as I said, a total non-negotiable. You have to be there. But operational efficiency as well. And trying to do everything on your own, in your own data center, with your own people, the unlearning of some of the skills, as was mentioned. These are some of the things we don't have time to wait for. And achieving operational efficiency quickly is something that we can help you do in the cloud. How do we do this? So continuous upgrades, keeping the software evergreen. This is really important. I know banks in the room, and I'm sure we've had some interesting and difficult conversations about how to get from R16 to R23, or 15, or 18. And you're stuck in a certain place where you need to get out of this, and it's a difficult cycle to break. We want to help you break this. Keeping it evergreen, continuous updates, and we'll mention this in areas. Keeping service continuity, being able to, and I think containers was also mentioned, being able to shut something off and fix it while everything else keeps going is really important. Being elastically scalable, like I talked about, as much as quickly as possible, and having this governance, security, risk, and the breadth of service. So for you, what does it mean? It means quicker time to market. It's hugely important. How quickly you can get to market. Resilient and always on. We talked about this, I also talked about this with my colleagues from one of the banks at the break. At the moment, having a resilient and always on mobile banking service, or even a network, is a key focus. These are things we can help you with and must be there. Leveraging the full power. Christos talked about the explainable artificial intelligence. Being able to fully leverage this in a very agile and a rapid way is so key. Keeping that trust and assurance. We also, I mean, this is something that's coming more and more, and we're talking about the ESG aspects. Lowering the carbon footprint. These are some of the additional aspects about cloud. And the last thing, which I think for banks, which you'll find possibly one of the biggest drivers, is lower TCO. So, to summarize, the opportunity is enormous. This is actually now grown to what's expected to be a market value of 7 trillion by 2030. Okay, that's globally, but in Pakistan, I think you'll see exactly the same trend is going to happen. I mentioned there isn't a single model. There is different ways to do this. As a commercial bank, as a regulated entity, as a fintech, as a digital bank, there is different aspects to that ecosystem that everyone can plug into. And from our point of view, we have the flexibility, the optionality, the scalability, and the architecture which we think can help you achieve the banking as a service and embedded finance opportunity. So thank you for listening. I'm here. I'll be very happy to have conversations with you on this topic as we go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nal, for detailing the relationship between BaaS provider and license holder and how it leads to hyper-personalization and other compelling benefits.
So the message is clear. Embedded finance is the future of banking services, and BaaS is the future of banks and financial services institutions. And to compete in this new world of BaaS, digital transformation is an imperative and not a choice. Ladies and gentlemen,
modular, agile technology, flexible, lightweight service options have made managed services a feasible option for banks of all sizes today.
Global managed services market is accelerating and projected to grow to $557 billion in 2028, up from $243 billion in 2021.
Any core banking is mission critical, hence it is our duty to ensure the likelihood of downtime of any core banking is negligible.
And for this reason, the convergence of managed services, cloud, and security becomes ever so important.
We as Systems Limited bring a menu item to the market. From enhancing operational efficiency and scalability through managed services on the cloud, to ensuring robust security measures for transaction and data, we are reimagining the future of banking.
And to take this discussion forward, allow me to re-invite him on the stage, Mr. Mohammed Ilyas, Head of Digital Infrastructure at Systems Limited.
Mic check. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good to be back here again, although I think not too many of you will be pleased to see me again because I'm the one standing between you and lunch. So I know, and my apologies for being a little bit over time. In this session, I'll try to wrap it up quicker than what I was supposed to. So basically, we're going to talk about managed services, we're going to talk about cloud, we're going to talk about security. We've heard a lot of these things during the whole day. I'm not going to go or delve into technical details because we simply just don't have time for that. But what we will do, or I will try to cover this session, is that what do we as financial institutions and as banks need to do, or what steps do we need to take, what parameters do we need to take into consideration so that we can adopt cloud in our environment, yet while ensuring that we take into consideration security against ever threat landscape over here. So specifically, what steps do we need to take? What would be the best way to adapt or choose a managed services provider? What steps do we need to take to go down the cloud route? And what steps do we need to take in order to ensure that while we're doing all that, we have security paramount, and yet it is convenient for our end customers as well. So convenience along with security. Just some facts that I would like to put up there. They were, I mean, interesting facts for me, so I thought I'll just put it out there. The global managed services market by 2028 is going to be the size of $500 billion. That's a huge number. Now, this is not only banking, I must admit, but still, I think that's a huge number. 85% of financial institutions will run applications from the cloud by 2025. So again, this is a global number, as you can see that we are fast approaching that. Now this again, 98% of banking institutions have faced cyber attacks in recent years. Now this is a report specifically by one of the sub-departments of Department of Treasury of the US government, so it is specifically for the US. But still, I mean, 98% of financial institutions and banks who had cyber attacks, so that's a significant number. And again, the extreme right one is also for the US market, but approximately it costs one data breach or one incident costs approximately about $6 million to the bank. So big numbers. Now, so shifting gears, managed services. I think that in this room as well, almost all of us are leveraging managed services in one form or the other. Now, I use the word managed service right now in a very loosely, very loose way. So it could even be just augmentation of skills, or it could be anything and downstream of technologies as well. Now, what obvious benefits that managed services do is that it brings improved focus because the managed service provider does that for a living, cost efficiencies, and most importantly, which I think almost all of us are using some sort of a managed service provider, is to bridge the skill gap. Now, we're banks, we're financial institutions, we're not really tech companies, so running the tech side of things for banks, keeping the skill is a bit of a challenge for us at times. So we tend to sort of augment that skill by utilizing some sort of a managed service provider. Now this is the part that I was coming to. What are the success factors on the right of the screen that you can see? That if I as a bank need to go and choose a managed service provider, what are those parameters that I need to take into consideration? Some of them are here, some of them I'll show you in the future slides as well. So we need to set the right measurable objectives. And when I say that, it is not only with regards to the number of tickets that have been closed, but it is ultimately to the customer satisfaction. At the end of the day, like I mentioned in the previous sessions as well, we are in a services industry, so does that managed service provider ultimately add value to my end customers as a bank? Ensuring continuous improvement, I think that is absolutely essential, and of course choosing the right managed services partner, which we will come on to as well. Now, when we talk about managed services in banking specifically, we as Systems Limited and DC, how do we categorize that? Into two things. Simplifying it, high level categorizing it into two things. One, run the bank, the other one, change the bank. Now in run the bank, what are the basic things? So service management, the overall service governance, ensuring the right KPIs and SLA reporting, continuous improvement, automation, as much as we can by automating all the repetitive processes, and so on and so forth, and of course the overall resilience of the service. So this is one part, one absolutely essential part of run the bank. The second one is break fix. So if something gets broken, how do you fix that, right? Whether it's fixes or if there are any service requests, doing the right kind of even regulatory maintenance and those kind of things. And then of course there is the technical management, the housekeeping, the preemptive side of things. So instead of waiting for something to go bad, we try to fix that. Doing basic housekeeping tasks like purging and optimization and patching and those kind of activities. The second part of managed services, change the bank. Now we as banks and financial institutions, we're a dynamic organization. We obviously need to change, and we talked a little bit about change as well in the other slides. So change is, like we said, the only constant now. And what should the managed services provider bring as change the bank? So there is the management side of things, the change management side of things, how is change implemented, are new ways of bringing in changes like DevOps being inculcated in the overall practice, in the overall culture, having knowledge management so that we don't have to go through that learning curve all the time, and reutilize assets that we make along the way. Then of course we'll have new developments and enhancements, and new developments and enhancements will be in the form of the business rolling out new products, it will be in the form of the regulator bringing in more regulatory requirements that we'll have to do, and then of course the testing side of things, which again we as systems and DC think is absolutely essential before we actually push the change. Choosing the right managed services partner, skilled professionals. I think that goes without saying. That is the underlying most essential quality that the managed service provider should have. They should have a deep expertise, pool of skills where they can pull in this skill when and where needed for the actual customer, being the bank. Repeatable processes. So, and that's what we do quite a bit as systems and DC as well. That whatever processes, whatever activities that are repeatable, we try to automate that as well, and make a process for that, so that at the end of the day there is less chance of mistake and quicker as well. Tools and automation, again, automating not only the repetitive processes, but then using machine learning and generative AI, so on and so forth, so that we can then get to the next stage. And then using analytics. When I say analytics, I don't simply mean BI or anything like that. It's basically the service provider being able to analyze their own service. So some of the very, it could start from some of the very basic parameters, like me as a service provider, how many tickets am I resolving at the L1 layer and not going to L2? How many of the tickets are now, after 6 months, not even going to L1? How many of them are just being automatically resolved? How many tickets are not being generated 6 months down the road Why? Because I have brought in processes and technologies so that they could fix something before it goes wrong. So on and so forth. How am I able to measure customer satisfaction? Now, customer satisfaction at the end of the day sometimes can become a subjective term, but ultimately it is not about closing tickets or resolving tickets. Ultimately, it is about customer satisfaction. So how am I, as a managed service provider, able to quantify that for myself and then ultimately bring benefit to customers? So these are some of the basic things that we believe that should be taken into consideration when choosing a managed services provider. Now, so we talked about managed services. What should be the right choice in choosing the choice of managed service provider, and then we move to the cloud. Now, I heard this somewhere that gone are the days where technology was built to last. No longer. Technology is now built to change. And we talked a lot about cloud and the benefits of cloud, and the number one primary reason that I think that cloud adaptability is needed is so that we could go through that change quicker. Our customers demand us changing quicker. Our business does. I mean, we would cease to be in business if we are not able to adopt and change fast. What does cloud bring us? So being cloud native makes it quick to build. Bringing API first makes it quick to integrate with the overall ecosystem or other providers out there. And fundamentally, so I think we touched a little bit upon that, about security in our cloud panel discussion. Cloud is designed to be secure. It is based on zero trust policy. Zero trust means nothing talks to anything else unless it is sort of manually asked to do so by communication, making sure, so on and so forth. So in that sense, so these are some of the basic, benefits of cloud. And then again, I won't go through this whole slide again, but ultimately, everything will be available as a service on one or the other cloud, in fact on multiple clouds, to be consumed as a service via APIs or other integration parameters. I think that's ultimately what we're going down to. Now there are different flavors and different consumption models, as we call them, of the cloud. So and this is where there was something about shared responsibility with the cloud service provider as well. So for example, if we talk about infrastructure as a service, which is a little down in the food chain, then the cloud service provider is responsible for that part, and not only provision of that part, but the security of that part as well. So you as a bank are basically sharing responsibility, in the sense you're giving a part of that responsibility to the cloud service provider, who again does that for a living. And this is where, at least I personally believe, is the nexus of managed services, cloud, and security. Everything will, on the left of your screen, everything will be available as a service. Now, whether it is software as a service or ultimately banking as a service, where obviously you will need a banking access provider domain as well. But that will be available and is being available as a service. You just need to consume all of that, being the bank in the middle, and then keeping in view the security aspect in mind. And when I say the security aspect, broadly classifying, broadly speaking, three basic things. I mean, security can be overwhelming for all of us, but if we try to simplify it a little bit, three basic things. Number one is data security, application, and access. So when I say about access, I mean access management, identity management, network, and all that stuff. But fundamentally, it's these three things. So if we're able to get our arms around these three parameters of security, that's when we know that we've got things covered. And this is something that I maybe want to spend a couple of minutes on. When initially in the session I spoke about that, what are the steps that we need to take in order to get there. So when we say that we need to be secure, what does that mean? I mean, what do we exactly do? I mean, there's so much stuff out there, right? And when we're called by customers saying that, hey, help us with our security stuff, generally, the discussion just jumps into tools and technologies. We strongly believe that in order to have a strong security posture, the journey starts much before that. On the left of your screen, and we'll start from left to right, is identifying the business requirements, identifying the compliance requirements, identifying the security policies, and then setting up the choosing the right frameworks. Now, we don't have to really reinvent the wheel here. There are quite a few frameworks that are already available, whether on the cloud or legacy or hybrid or so on and so forth. What we have to do is just choose the right framework. And by the way, I mean, we've talked about the regulator quite a bit, but here I would really like to give credit to the regulators around the world and in Pakistan as well, that they do a lot of this for us. I mean, when they enforce us to be compliant to a certain set of controls and policies, actually they're doing that to left side work for us. If we do that in the right spirit as well as in the letter, then half our problems are solved, honestly. So choosing the right frameworks, which gives us the controls against all that middle part. Now, the discussion generally starts from the middle part. That should not be the case. It should start from the left. We choose the right frameworks. The framework comes with its own set of policies, and those policies and controls cover everything. So whether it is access, identity access management, privilege access management, so on and so forth, whether we're talking about data security, data at rest, data in motion, so on and so forth, network comes part of access in my opinion, application security, DevSecOps, so the whole 9 yards is covered by those controls. Once we've got that in place, and then we can use whatever technologies or whatever tools we need in order to get those controls adhered to, then of course comes the monitoring. So it is not a one-time thing, okay, I've done this and I can forget about it for the next 6 months or a year. No. So there is a continuous monitoring, alerting, incident response mechanism. We need to have the blue team so that we practice scenarios where we compromise and what will be our response. We need to have, when I say we, so it could be either the bank or the financial institution or the bank together with the managed services provider, set up red and purple teams so that we are trying to actively check or identify the vulnerabilities in our systems and doing the penetrations and all that, so that it's a closed loop, and then we can go and fix it and patch it. And then of course having the business continuity across all of this, so that if anything of this fails, then our security posture is not compromised. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is our sort of a high-level blueprint to approaching that security problem that so many of us get overwhelmed with. Right. Compliance and regulatory considerations that definitely needs to be taken into consideration when we're talking about cloud or managed services generally as well. Now we talked about that during the cloud panel session as well. When we as banks take help or partner with cloud service providers or managed service providers, they're actually taking a lot of the responsibility from us. Now we talked about the different consumption models of cloud. So if I talk about SaaS for a moment, for example, then the cloud provider actually does the application security part for me. So they're already adding a lot of value. And I mean, again, we can debate this, but I'm a bank at the end of the day. I'm not a technology company. I'm not a security company. So there's so much that I can do to protect myself. These people out there, they do this for a living. Do they get compromised? Yes, absolutely. But the prevalence of them being compromised to the prevalence of non-technology or non-security providers being compromised is relatively quite different. So that, the second regulatory consideration that I'd like to bring in is, of course, I mean, we talked about our regulator opening up really. We've got that cloud policy now, so which is great, and the advent of digital banks. Will they be neobanks? Not sure, but yes, digital banks. So again, they don't have that baggage, so they can go down that route quicker. And then maybe I'll beat a little bit of our own drum right at the end. So that's the country model bank. So for Pakistan, definitely, and for I think about 6 or 7 other countries in the near region, we work with Temenos to come up with the country model bank. Now, what that means is, one of the things that means is that all the regulatory compliances and requirements are taken care of by us as a system integrator of Temenos. So basically, you as the bank need not worry too much about those regulations that, and then the regulator comes in and does the audit and then tells you that, hey, you guys are not compliant here and here. So we do that, a lot of that for you, and it is a continuous thing, if taken as part of a managed service. Whatever new requirements are coming, new regulatory frameworks are coming as part of those 7 country model banks. So this is my last slide. I think during the course of this session, we've touched about everything. We've got our booth for Metaverse outside as well. We've actually created a couple of branches for banks outside of Pakistan. I think at least one in Pakistan as well on the Metaverse. So I would really invite you to go and check that out there. One thing that maybe was not covered or at least I did not hear was about RegTech. RegTech is regulatory technology. So tech that is basically where we use automation, where we use AI, so as to ensure that we are consistently compliant with the regulatory requirements. So that is sort of automated for us. In Pakistan, are we there yet? I mean, that level of automation is there, I'll be honest, no. But I think we as Systems NDC are well suited for that, because we've got in the form of the country model bank, we've got all those things covered. We need to now sort of bring in the technology and the processes behind it so that we can then actively take that as a product into the market around RegTech. I think everything else was already delved in quite a lot of detail, so I will not go into that again. And I think that is the end of my session here, my LinkedIn address. So more than happy to connect with all of you. And once again, thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ilyas, for educating the audience on how deeply entrenched we are in our offerings in managed services, cloud, and security.
Members of the audience, managed services was once basically started as an add-on service post-implementation of any core banking, is now one of Systems Limited unique selling points. Ladies and gentlemen, taking this opportunity, we would now want to recognize and appreciate our sponsors and speakers. And to the honors, I would like to call on stage CEO and MD Mr. Asif Peer and GM Global BFS Mr. Mara Masood. First up, we would want to recognize Nevis Security for their contribution as our platinum sponsor and request Mr. Michael Hans to come on stage to receive the token of appreciation. Johannes Kriegbaum.
Next, we would want to recognize HIG for the contribution as a gold sponsor and request Mr. Carey to come on stage and receive the token of appreciation.
After HID, we would want to recognize Red Hat for their contribution as our second gold sponsor and request Ms. Minna Salim to come on stage to receive the plaque of appreciation.
After Red Hat, we would want to recognize Salesforce for the contribution as a third gold sponsor and request Mr. On Ali Siddiqui to come on stage and receive the token of appreciation.
Moving on to the silver category, we would want to recognize Form Pipe for their contribution as a silver sponsor and request Mr. Mark Jenkins to come on stage to receive the token of appreciation.
After Form 5, we would want to recognize Validata for their contribution as a silver sponsor and request Mr. Tawqir Alam to come on stage and receive the token of appreciation.
And lastly, from the sponsors, we would want to recognize Hisab Kitab for their contribution as our bronze sponsor and request Mr. Haider Wahab to come on stage to receive the plaque of appreciation. Now from the speakers, I would like to invite Mr. William Mulroney, Managing Director, Temenos Mia, to receive the plaque of appreciation for sharing his thoughts on Engage and Grow in a Cloud World. I would appreciate if all the Temenos speakers could come on stage to receive their token and plaques of appreciation. Mr. Christos Panagopoulos, Johannes Friedbaum, Nailini, and Mr. Shiraj Junejo. We would also want to recognize our partner Temenos as a co-host for this Bank of the Future Forum 2023 and request Ms. Emma Foley to come on stage to receive the token of appreciation. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we reach to the conclusion of the main plenary of the Bank of the Future Forum. I would like to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for being part of this event and making it a success.
We've arranged a delicious lunch for all our attendees. It is an excellent opportunity to continue networking, share your thoughts and ideas, and further build upon the connections you have made throughout the day.
Furthermore, after lunch we have an exciting lineup of breakouts tailored to the theme of the conference. Let me briefly introduce you to the options. Efficiency in action, optimizing collection processes, modernizing your core banking system, navigating the path to future-ready banking, drive efficiency with Temenos Core Corporate Lending. You can select which one to deep dive into based on the specific area of your interest. Now before we disperse for lunch, I kindly request all of you in the audience to gather in front of the stage so we can take a photograph together. This picture will serve as a testament to the connections we have made today and the knowledge we have gained throughout the conference.
Please take a moment to join us for this group picture. We want to include every participant as your presence has been invaluable to the success of this event. Everyone, please gather on the stage. Thank you.
Hello.